Hi guys, welcome to my channel. I am SUKRITI Arorا, and just to tell you that this is my first video. So basically, why did I come up with an idea of making a video? I've been studying nutrition for quite some time now, and one thing that I've realized is that at some point or other in our lives, we have to and we should start paying attention as to how our body is reacting to the food that we are providing it. How well are the important nutrients getting absorbed in our body, and is our body really in synchronization with the food that we are providing it? Number one, so while you eat, you just have to eat. And by that, I mean that stop watching TV, reading books, or drawing, walking, eating, whatever you do simultaneously while eating your food, just stop that. Sit and eat. This way you'll be able to track that movement of food starting right from your mouth through your esophagus to your stomach, and this way it will help you benefit 20% more than the usual ways of eating. Okay, so some people have a habit of having food while lying down on a bed or a sofa, which is extremely wrong. Why? This is because when we are lying down, our esophagus, that is our food pipe, it bends, and when it bends, it is not able to perform peristalsis. Peristalsis is the movement of chewed food from your mouth to your stomach. So our esophagus does not perform peristalsis properly when it is bent, and so the food doesn't reach the stomach on time, which causes indigestion and other problems, gastrointestinal tract problems such as diarrhea, constipation, etc. Okay, so the second most important point that comes under the ways of mindful eating is our posture. So while eating, we should sit straight, upright, and preferably if you can sit on the ground with your legs folded, you should eat while sitting upright. Next, it is very important to chew our food properly before we gulp it. We should chew our food a bite at least 20 times before gulping it. This way, the nutrients in the food get absorbed more easily by our body and it doesn't have to work more. Third very important point in the ways of mindful eating is having our food on time. So while you have dinner, eat your dinner at least 3 hours before you sleep, and if not 3 hours, at least 1 hour, because we all know we have different work schedules, so we cannot make it 3 hours before we sleep. So we can keep it at least 1 hour before we sleep. Also, it's a very good practice if we stop eating just before we start feeling full. This way, our body doesn't feel bloated and that feeling of fullness, it stops. Next, let's talk about the before and after of our major meals. Our major meals are our breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So, what should we not have just before and just after our major meals? So, we should not consume fruits just after and just before our meal, at least 1 hour. Another thing is tea and coffee. We should not consume tea or coffee just before or after our meals. That is because tea contains some substances known as tannins, and coffee, as we all know, contains caffeine. So tannins and caffeine, they both interrupt in the absorption of nutrients in our body. It is also very important to balance the maintenance and regulation of the portion size we are consuming. For instance, let's consider that the portion size consumed by an obese person is different from that of a person who is elderly, which is further different from the person who is an adult. Another example, that the food consumed by a diabetic person is definitely different than the food consumed by a tuberculosis patient. So it is different for everyone. Okay, so before going to the portion size, let me clear one thing. It is not only the calories that matter. Only increasing or decreasing of calories will not make you gain or lose weight. It's a multifactorial approach. It involves protein, fats, and a lot of other things. The sooner the better. So since the time we've taught how to eat, we've been just using our hands to eat. No, I'm not asking you to use your legs to eat, but I want you all to use your brains while you eat. So in order to achieve all the above mentioned goals, we have to use some of the techniques that are known as mindful ways of eating, which will work like miracles in getting our food absorbed more. I know this may feel a little impractical to you in today's time where we switch on the TV or a web series before we even grab our food, but trust me, believe me, that practice this way of eating your food for a week and thank me later. Well, then it's a very confusing question, how much to eat. So now there's something known as a mental meal map. Till now we've understood 3 S's while eating. So number 1 is senses, involve all your senses while eating. Number 2, sit and eat. Silence, try and eat in silence. So now mental meal map, it's a 3-step process which involves number 1, we need to identify that how hungry are we. For example, let's consider we are hungry for 2 chapatis. Step number 2, we have to consume half the amount of hunger we have and double the time taken to have the usual food. So if we are hungry for 2 chapatis, we'll have 1 chapati taking double the time to chew it. Step number 3, we need to recognize again that if you're hungry or not. And if the hunger still persists, we'll go to step number 1, that is eating half the food we are hungry and taking double the time we'll eat. This way we'll be able to resonate with the satiety signal of our body, and we need to consider that our satiety signal is usually delayed, so we should wait for our body to respond and only then we should act. Another very important aspect of mindful eating is the gapping between our meals. So we should not overburden our organs, our body by consuming a lot of food at one time and then starving for the later hours. So I've seen a lot of people cribbing that they're hungry at unusual times, which is practically impossible if you're having your meals at time and in the right proportion. So if you also feel that way, you need to understand that we usually confuse our thirst with our hunger. So when you are hungry at unusual times, have a glass of water, sit and notice if you are still hungry. If the hunger still persists, then have something light. You can follow a 3 major, a 3 minor meal pattern, or you can have something every 2 hours, but do not give major fluctuations to your body. Though a lot of successful nutritionists say that we need to follow a good proportion of having our breakfast, lunch and dinner. So it is in the proportion of 3:2:1, and there's a very good quote related to this also, that you should have a breakfast like a king, lunch like a worker and dinner like a beggar. Okay, so lastly, it is very important to stay hydrated over the day. We should have at least 2 to 3 liters of water every day, which makes up to 8 to 12 glasses of water. Staying hydrated maintains the fluid and electrolyte balance in our body, which further solves a lot of problem on its own, like fatigue, fever, nausea, etc. Okay, so let's wrap up for the introductory session. I hope that you feel that all these points are helpful and you'll follow these steps in your lifestyle. I hope to meet you all for our upcoming nutrition sessions, and if you like the video, please subscribe, like and comment. Till then, eat right and stay healthy.